So I just got done rewatching Game of Thrones and I thought that just maybe when I started to rewatch it, that ending wouldn't be quite so bad. But unfortunately, yeah, it's still really, really bad. But I still didn't want to take away from all the good moments that I really enjoyed. But that ending, I mean, Bran, the one that claimed that he didn't want any power, the one that just stares at everybody like he wants to kill them all the time, like he looks like a serial killer and he gets the throne. Anyway, I'm moving on. Moving on now. So, the Targaryens were always my favourite part of Game of Thrones, so I was always really wanting to see more of them, more of their family history. So, when it was announced that they were going to do a prequel show based on their family, I was really excited. I got my hopes up, hoping that it would be Game of Thrones, level 1 to 6, like seasons 1 to 6, when it was really, really good. And look, I'm not going to say it's as good so far based on what we've seen as Game of Thrones at its best, but it's still nowhere near as bad as what it could have been. I'll say it's somewhere in the middle. It's not amazing, but it's definitely not bad. So, honestly, I've always felt like, okay, this is a really unpopular opinion. Viserys Targaryen, I feel like he should have lived longer. I always thought that he was actually a really interesting character. But anyway, so this show, House of the Dragon, is based on the book Fire and Blood. So it tells the story of House Targaryen and it's set roughly 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones. So the first thing that I definitely noticed straight away is that they have a similar score to Game of Thrones, and in a way it felt a little bit cheap. It felt like it was trying to, get people nostalgic instead of doing its own thing. Obviously they're tied together being the same universe, but still, like, set this show apart. So the king's wife is pregnant, I think with baby number 6 if I'm correct. So she's had 5 miscarriages so far, maybe due to inbreeding. Just saying, the Targaryens are famous or infamous for marrying each other. Anyway, she loses the baby, which turns out to the king's joy to be a boy, and she dies during childbirth, or I should say they kill her because she has to have the baby cut out of her. And I've got to say, that birth scene was hard to watch. I was basically watching it like this the whole time because it was sort of like that scene in Game of Thrones where Sam was removing all of the grayscale from, what was that guy's name? From that guy's back. And it was one of the harder to watch scenes in this franchise or universe, you know what I mean? Anyway, so the poor woman dies, the baby boy dies, and the king, of course, is grieving. And what does his brother do? Basically go out and celebrate because now he thinks that he's going to have the throne one day. He thinks the king will automatically choose him, even though he's shown to be a man of very little character. He cheats on his wife. He really isn't a good guy. He basically just celebrates the fact that his family has died. And anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more later. But so we also see the throne, which I thought was really interesting because in Game of Thrones, there isn't all the knives there. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Like, there isn't those knives around it. And I just kept thinking, what if somebody fell over and tripped? Like, they would just kill themselves automatically. Anyway, so there was an Easter egg I saw, the red tree that was in the Stark's house with the face on it. I forget what it was called. It had a name, but that was in the show. And that felt like it was a cool little nod to the universe, like it being the same universe. So Rhaenyra, if I'm pronouncing that right, sorry if I'm not, I'm an Australian and we can't really pronounce things like that. Anyway, so she gets crowned as next in line, and I think she seems like she's going to be a good ruler. Not because she's a woman, I don't care if someone's a man or a woman, I care about their character. And I feel like so far we see that she is somebody who doesn't really seek power, and who knows if later on that's going to change, and when she gets a taste of true power, like Daenerys, why can't I pronounce anything tonight? Khaleesi, I'll just say Khaleesi, when she gets power, we all see how that went. It just went to her head because she got an enormous amount of power in a very short time. And I haven't read the book that it's based upon, so I'm just making things up. I don't know how it's going to end. But yeah, I think from what we've seen of her character so far, she looks like she's going to be better than Daemon. Not that that's really hard to beat. Anyway, so we have Alicent Hightower, played by Olivia Cooke from Bates Motel, and all I could see when I looked at her was her character from Bates Motel. Like, do you ever get that sometimes when you can't really immerse yourself into what an actor or actress is doing because you see them as somebody else from another movie? Anyway, so the king says something to her that I thought was really interesting. Basically, he says that he thinks, as a Targaryen, that dragons should not exist, that they are a force that humans shouldn't be messing with, that they're too powerful to exist, that they basically ruined Valyria. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And then he talks about he has a prophecy, or he talks about how somebody had a prophecy of the events in Game of Thrones, how winter comes, and how he says at the time, if anybody is going to survive winter coming, a Targaryen needs to be on the throne. And we all know that Khaleesi never gets the throne, so yeah, that doesn't end up happening. Well, I guess Jon was technically king, but it wasn't on the Iron Throne, it was just king in the north, and he was a Targaryen, so I don't know. I'm nitpicking here too much, but so we see some more Easter eggs. We see that the sword, there's like a dagger that the king has made of Valyrian steel, and I'm pretty sure that that is the one that Arya Stark comes back to Winterfell with. I'm not too sure, but I think it was. And anyway, so the dragons, the CGI was really good. I felt like we had just enough screen time with the dragons without too much, you know. So it ends with Rhaenyra being crowned. I don't know if I've said that already, but yeah, she ends up crowned. And basically Daemon gets banished. Well, not banished, but basically the king says, I don't want anything to do with you because he's just the worst brother in the world. Okay, maybe not the worst, but so here's a few very minor things that I had a problem with. And like I said, they're very minor things, but I was hoping in this show they would give the Targaryens purple eyes. I thought that would have been cool to see. Sorry if my voice sounds funny, I'm just recovering from the flu. Anyway, so I don't know why they didn't do that. Maybe it's CGI or whatever. And I always pictured them to look like the Lord of the Rings elves, very just beautiful people, because I think that's pretty canon, right? Or I don't know if it is or it isn't, but from what we've seen from Game of Thrones, both Viserys, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm having a hard time remembering names tonight, but Viserys, the other brother of Daenerys, and her herself, they're all like very beautiful people physically, and I'm pretty sure that's like meant to be a canon thing, that Targaryens, because of the Valyrian blood, are meant to just be really beautiful people. And I'm not saying that the actors and actresses aren't good looking people, please don't take it that way. I just felt like Matt Smith, I think, is a very attractive man, but I just don't feel like they suited the whole white blonde hair. Well, I know I wouldn't suit it. It has to have like People, I think, with that certain look that both Emilia Clarke and whoever played Viserys, why can't I say anything? You know, they both had that skin tone where it looked really good, it looked really natural. But I feel like with all these actors and actresses playing the Targaryens, whenever I see them, I just automatically notice that's a wig. That is definitely a wig. Like, you can tell straight away. But like I said, look, it really isn't important. I am much more interested in them telling a good story, having good characters, and so far it seems like it's off to a good start. I would give it a 7 out of 10. So let me know down below what you thought of it so far. And also, if you would like to see more from me, please consider subscribing or even just giving this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. Thanks, guys.